Today, we explore the chilling story of Wayne Adam Ford, a man who, at first glance, seemed like any ordinary individual but concealed a dark and twisted reality. A former truck driver and military man, Ford became known as a killer who shocked investigators and the public alike when he walked into a sheriff's office in 1998 with a horrific confession and a shocking piece of evidence. We'll take you through his life story, his descent into violence, the crimes he committed, and the intense trial that followed. Wayne Adam Ford was born on December 3, 1961, in Petaluma, California, growing up in a family that had a mix of stability and tension. As a child, Ford reportedly showed no signs of violent tendencies. However, the dynamics within his family were not always peaceful. He experienced instability, facing challenges that would later be cited as factors that might have contributed to his disturbing actions. His early life showed no explicit warning signs of what he would later become. He was seen as somewhat quiet and reserved. Not necessarily a loner, but someone who didn't always fit in. Ford tried to pursue a stable path. He joined the military, married, and tried to live a normal life. But deep-rooted issues and inner conflicts lingered under the surface. Ford's troubles escalated during his adult years. After leaving the military, he took up work as a truck driver, which allowed him to travel widely and maintain distance from society and family, further isolating him. His relationships were often marked by anger, jealousy, and sometimes even violence. By this point, he struggled with mental health issues, and people around him noticed he seemed withdrawn, harboring an underlying resentment or frustration. This period marks the beginning of Ford's descent into darker behaviors, leading to a point where his thoughts of violence and control started manifesting in his actions. He married twice, and both marriages ended in failure, partially due to his controlling and abusive tendencies. As his relationships deteriorated, his psychological state appeared to worsen, leaving him increasingly unmoored from any social or emotional stability. By the late 1990s, Ford's life had taken a dark turn. He began targeting vulnerable individuals, often women who were either hitchhiking or in difficult situations themselves. His method of operation involved picking up victims along highways, making his truck the perfect location for him to commit his acts of violence in secrecy. Ford's modus operandi was ruthless. The violence escalated with each crime, and he committed these acts with a chilling detachment, often moving from one state to another to avoid drawing attention to his actions. This evasiveness made him difficult for law enforcement to track, as there was no clear pattern that would easily tie his crimes together. He preyed on women who often went unnoticed in society, making it challenging for investigators to link his murders until his eventual confession. On November 3, 1998, Wayne Adam Ford walked into the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department in Eureka, California. What happened next shocked everyone. Ford approached the counter and requested to speak with an officer, producing a plastic bag that contained evidence of his crime, a human body part. He then calmly confessed to multiple murders, telling officers about the dark path he had been on for years. The officers were stunned. Ford's confession was unusual, both in its detail and in his demeanor. His decision to turn himself in suggested he had reached a breaking point, one that psychologists and law enforcement struggled to fully understand. Some speculated that Ford's guilt had become overwhelming, while others believed he might have been seeking some form of notoriety or validation. Ford's psychological state became a point of great interest during his trial. Experts examined his mental health history, noting a combination of personality disorders, emotional instability, and violent tendencies. He was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which contributed to his erratic behavior and inability to form lasting, healthy relationships. Many experts argued that his unstable mental state and possible traumatic experiences might have played a role in his descent into violence. Despite these findings, there was a growing debate over whether Ford's actions were the result of his mental illness or a manifestation of calculated, intentional cruelty. Some professionals argued that his confession demonstrated a moment of clarity and understanding, suggesting that he knew right from wrong. Wayne Adam Ford's case drew significant media attention as it unfolded. Prosecutors painted him as a ruthless killer, while his defense team attempted to argue that his actions were influenced by his psychological state. The court sessions were intense, revealing Ford's disturbing pattern of behavior and the horrors he inflicted on his victims. The jury faced the task of deciding whether Ford's actions were driven by mental illness or conscious decisions. Ford's calm and seemingly indifferent demeanor in the courtroom only added to the chilling nature of the trial. Family members of the victims were present, forced to relive the trauma and face the man responsible for their loss. The case of Wayne Adam Ford sent shockwaves through the community and across the nation. His ability to live among society unnoticed while committing such brutal acts stirred public fear and fascination. Media coverage of the case highlighted the seeming randomness of Ford's choice of victims, emphasizing that he could have continued his crimes for far longer if he had not turned himself in. The trial itself became a focal point for debates on mental health and criminal responsibility. Some argued that the system failed Ford by not addressing his issues earlier, while others felt that such arguments were attempts to excuse the inexcusable. The sensational nature of the trial, combined with Ford's shocking confession, led to a lasting impact on the public's perception of crime and justice. After a lengthy trial, Ford was ultimately sentenced to death for his crimes. His sentence was met with mixed reactions. Some viewed it as justice served, while others questioned whether the death penalty was an appropriate punishment for someone with such severe mental health issues. Even in prison, Ford's actions and his personality continued to be a subject of interest. Some argued that he represented the dangers of untreated mental health conditions, while others saw him as a reminder of society's need to protect vulnerable individuals from predators who exploit them. The story of Wayne Adam Ford leaves many lingering questions about accountability, mental health, and the nature of evil. Ford's life and actions serve as a dark reminder of the potential for violence that can exist in the most unassuming individuals. His decision to come forward and confess marked a strange twist in the narrative, one that is rarely seen in criminal cases of this magnitude. To this day, Wayne Adam Ford's case remains a disturbing chapter in true crime history. His story prompts us to ask difficult questions about the human mind, the roots of violent behavior, and the extent to which society can prevent such tragedies. And that brings us to the end of our journey into the haunting life of Wayne Adam Ford. From a troubled childhood to a man who became one of California's most notorious killers, Ford's story is one that lingers in the mind, forcing us to confront the darkest sides of human nature. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more in-depth true crime stories. And stay tuned as we continue to explore the complex lives and shocking acts that shape the world of crime.